When the internet began, bulletin board services, or BBS, became the first online communities of the so-called information superhighway. Using their phone lines, people logged in from all over America to talk about sports, games, movies, and on one BBS in particular, share their ghost stories. Over time, those communities all went dark, except for one lone server that continues to operate somewhere in an unknown part of Pennsylvania's Rust Belt. A relic of the 1990s, veiled in mystery, it is a digital archive of humanity's strangest encounters with the unknown, as told by the people who experienced them. My name is Brandon Schexnayder, and you are listening to Fear Daily.
Subject: The Moon is High and Hunting, Part 1. User: Herbex10. Posted April 12, 1997.
Lately, I find myself dreaming of my grandmother's house in South Carolina. It's long been sold out of the family, but the version of it I see when I sleep still belongs to us. It begins with wrought iron gates, their intricate scrollwork painted white, swing opening admitting me to the estate grounds. I drift along brick-lined paths beneath sprawling oak tree canopies. The house is always the same, a stately, three-story colonial-style house with white clapboard siding, black shutters, and a wide, welcoming front porch. Its gabled roof, draped in weathered gray shingles, slopes gently under low clouds. As I stand there, time races forward, daytime's glow fading quickly from the sky as lights begin to turn on inside the house. I can never seem to enter, my legs refusing to step onto that porch where I spent so much of my youth, but my grandmother will come out to see me. She looks both young and old at the same time, a strange composite of the elderly woman I knew as a boy and the young woman she had once been. Her words to me are the same each time. The moon is high and hunting. Night is coming down. Take care not to whistle or journey underground. With a wink, she turns her back and re-enters the house, where I briefly hear strains of conversation. Then I wake up. I'm not normally the kind of person who puts much stock in dreams. At best, there's some jarringly obvious metaphor about all the people at work who are pissing you off, and at worst, there's self-designed torture devices to reinforce all the bad programming you got in church. There was no reason for me to think this was anything different until I was driving home from work last week and saw her words spray-painted on a fresh sheet of plywood. It threw me off so much, I almost swerved into oncoming traffic, a chorus of furious beepings startling me back to reality before it was too late. Later that day, my groceries packed away, I walked up to the gas station at the end of my block and bought a road map, unfolding it back home across my kitchen table. I figured out where on the freeway I'd been when I saw the graffiti, and from there, where the construction site should be. 20 minutes later, I was driving through what had once been a thriving neighborhood before suburbs pulled all the tax money out of the city. Now, broken bottles littered frozen patches of dirt where lawns had once been, the houses they fronted riddled with smashed windows and black mold. At an intersection between an abandoned corner store and a mechanic shop, its darkened bays yawning open like empty eye sockets, the construction site looked out of place. Fresh plywood hammered together with bright shiny nails made a promise I was sure the neighborhood would never be able to deliver on. The crude black spray paint I'd seen from the highway seemed to confirm exactly that. All things fall apart in this place, it said. Hope most of all. I touched my hand to the wall, expecting the rough texture of new board, and instead feeling cold, hard metal that rang like a gong. I pulled back in shock, tripping over my own feet and landing in a heap, staring up at the lettering which had drawn me in. It began to separate into hundreds of tiny dots, which then flew away, disappearing into the sky above. "The moon is high and hunting," a rough voice said from behind me. I turned, hastily getting to my feet. An elderly woman was standing 20 yards away, her clothes smeared in the same gray grime as her face. A knit cap sat atop her head, barely covering a rat's nest of wavy white hair. "I'm sorry, what did you say?" She began to cough, a racking, wet, full-body wheeze that ended with her spitting a wad of something green and sticky onto the ground. "You heard me, boy. The moon is high and hunting. Night is coming down. Take care not to whistle or journey underground. If I have to tell you any more, you're dead already." The wad of mucus she'd expelled began to move, inching slug-like back toward her. I watched in horror as it picked up speed, sliding noiselessly up her tattered shoes to slip inside her pant leg, now a lump under the stained denim. I recoiled despite myself, and filthy old woman laughed, a raspy, grating sound. Her mouth continued to open wider and wider, the sounds coming from it distorting more and more as it did. Finally, laughter deepened to a nightmarish buzz, and a cloud of flies exploded from her mouth, thousands of them spraying forth like oil from a freshly tapped well. As they poured forth, her body began to vanish from the legs up, her clothes collapsing in on themselves. In seconds, the woman and flies were gone, leaving behind a soiled pile of clothes. Last thing I remember is the ground rushing up at me. I came to with a pair of young kids gently poking at me. "Is he dead?" I heard one of them say. I groaned and they shrieked, jumping back. My head ached from hitting the ground and my whole body felt half frozen. Getting out of this without at least a head cold, I figured, would be a minor miracle unto itself. With some difficulty, I got to my feet, noting the pile of dirty clothes was still where it had been before my little nap. The boys were maybe 7, one brunette, the other a blonde. The boys were still shrieking. The one who hadn't already pronounced my death, Blondie, said something about me being a zombie, and it took me a few minutes to convince him I wasn't there to eat anyone's brains or whatever it is they do. Once they'd both calmed down, I asked them if they were from the neighborhood. The brunette kid was the one who answered. "No one's from here anymore, man. No one lives here except crackheads. We come to collect empties." "No one lives here. Why are they putting up a whole new building?" I gestured behind me. Both boys cocked their heads quizzically. "The construction," I started to say before turning around to see that the plywood structure was completely gone, the dirt beneath it smooth as if it had never been there. My shoulders sagged. I looked back at the kids. It was right here. You kids must have seen it. It was high enough to be visible from the fucking freeway. They were understandably wary, hopping back on their bikes. "Yeah, man, whatever you say." They began pedaling away. I faintly heard one of them say, "I liked him better when I thought he was a zombie." Back in my car, the dashboard clock told me hours had passed, which tracked with the chill I felt setting in. I cranked the heaters to max and pulled away from the curb. It was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. It would be dark soon. The only place left to go was home.
Subject, from here, it happened. User, PO215. Posted, April 4th, 1998.
Everyone in the neighborhood heard the shots. 3 130 grain, 270 caliber rounds punching into the garage door of Robert and Valerie Morrison's cream-colored suburban dream home, and yet no one saw a thing. A tale as old as time. Mind you, one of those bullets blowing up poor old Robbie's head like a dropped melon wouldn't be the kind of thing most civilians could memory hole, and suburbanites are notorious cop sniffers, so after interviewing all the neighbors, I was tempted to believe none of them were witnesses. My partner Eugene took the call. He's a smart guy. Could have been anything, but for some reason he chose to be a cop. When we have downtime in the car, he likes to wax on about scientific concepts I can't begin to wrap my head around. He's a good cop who always has my back, so I nod along, trying to learn a thing or two. It doesn't stick, but hey, I'm trying. After hanging up the phone, he told me we had a sniper out in suburbia, 652 Albertson in Hopper Valley. 5 minutes later, we were on our way. The widow, Valerie, was sitting in the kitchen when we got there. Uniforms on scene told us she was a stay-at-home wife and had been doing the breakfast dishes when it happened. My father was in the military, so I know what gunshots sound like, she explained, her voice numb. It didn't make sense I'd be hearing them here. The kitchen's floor-to-ceiling windows gave her a clear view of the driveway from above. There'd been a noticeable gap between shots, she said, 5 to 7 seconds, and she'd watched helplessly as Robert tried to figure out where they were coming from. He was too far away to hear her beating on the glass, screaming at him to take cover. Robert didn't know anything about guns, Valerie said. He stood there. He must have thought they were firecrackers. The boys down the street like to throw them around. She trailed off. On my way out, I took in as much as the house as I could. It was about what you'd expect. Beige walls and blonde wood furniture, an overstuffed, clearly comfortable couch in front of a huge rear projection TV. Pictures of the couple were everywhere, seemingly taken around the world. They looked happy. Robert was an unremarkable man, chubby-cheeked, clean-shaven, kind eyes. If this wasn't some random psycho, I thought, I'd be very surprised. Who'd want to kill such a wholesome little nerd, a software engineer at that? People aren't as good at hiding secrets as you think they are. You wear your secrets around your eyes, and Robert Morrison's were as empty as his furniture was boring. Where the shots had come from was a no-brainer. The Morrisons live in Spring Valley, across from the parking lot at Mount Hopper's trailhead. Even from the lowest trail, you'd only have to be a competent shot to hit your mark, and since it had taken our shooter 3 tries, I didn't figure we were dealing with the White Death. Our crime scene guys finding all 3 fingerprint-covered casings clustered together in the dirt less than 10 feet from the road confirmed my suspicions. Whoever was doing this was either the dumbest person alive or didn't care about being caught. By early afternoon, we were done on scene, and a tension headache was starting to work its way up from my neck. Eugene put the car into gear and was about to pull into traffic when our radio crackled to life. 215. That was our car. I sighed and snatched the handset off the dash. This is 215. 215, be advised we have a 1032 at Tidy Clean Car Wash, 4214 North Highbury. Patrol units on scene are reporting an agitated white male carrying a hunting rifle. Eugene inhaled sharply. You think? Tiny Clean is 10 minutes away. The shooting was 4 hours ago. What the fuck would he have been doing this whole time? I shrugged, clicking open the radio channel. 10-4 dispatch, 2:15 en route from 632 Albertson. I hung up the mic and leaned back in my seat while Eugene gunned the engine. Only one way to find out. 6 minutes later, we pulled up to a ring of squad cars surrounding Tiny Clean Car Wash. I got out and approached one of the uniforms who had their guns drawn on the wash bay, flashing my badge. Detectives McGivern and Holland, we hear you've got a man with a rifle. We're looking for one. Tell me about yours. The patrolman was in his mid-30s, a thick mustache, trying and failing to hide his baby face. Hey, detective, the owner called it in. He said the guy has been parked in the lot since, one sec, I wrote it down, 9:30 this morning. Up until an hour ago, he was just sitting there. Around 1 p.m., owner says, the guy flipped out, started screaming, hitting the wheel. He pops the trunk, pulls out a hunting rifle, and walks into the automated wash, firing 3 rounds into the machinery. Guys got the call 45 minutes ago. We're still not sure if he still has ammunition, so we've been trying to talk him out. He just keeps ranting about how he killed them all and why hasn't it happened yet. How many people did your guy kill? Just one. Did he say what he was expecting to happen? The patrolman shook his head. He hadn't said much, if anything, in the last 10 minutes. When he does talk, it sounds like he's started using some kind of voice-altering device. What makes you say that? The patrolman looked away toward the bay, then back at me. He sounds distorted, like a radio station that's not tuned in right. I can't explain it better than that. All right. I waited for the uniform to tell me his name. Starkey. All right, Starkey, we'd like to talk to this guy. Do you mind? Starkey shook his head, then called over to the sharp-faced patrol woman holding a megaphone. Estevez, detective here, wants to take a run at this guy. Estevez nodded, and I walked over, taking the offered bullhorn. He's inside the bay, sir, behind one of the standing brushes. He won't come out. Has he given you a name yet? I asked. Just Robert. That stopped me for a second. If this was our guy, that was going to be a first for me. I called out using the megaphone. Robert, my name is Detective Frank McGivern. I need to ask you some questions. Is that okay? No answer. Robert, it's very important you answer me. Are you hurt? For a moment, there was silence, then a voice that almost sounded like buzzing bees called out. Yes. I took a breath and let it out slowly. Do you need an ambulance, Robert? Is there someone we can call? Several more seconds passed before he replied. Something is wrong. I'm sure I can help you, Robert, but you have to work with me. These people out here think you're going to shoot at them. Are you going to do that? No, I wouldn't do that. I only killed him because they said if I did, if I killed all of him, that they could bring her back, but I think they lied. I think that's what they do. Jesus, that was a lot to break down. First things first, though, I thought. I believe you, Robert, I do, and we can talk about all that. First, I need you to drop that gun so we can talk. The distortion that had been underlying his voice started to rise without him having to speak. It sounded like someone ripping up and down a radio band full of white noise. A cry of pain came from inside. Robert, what's going on in there, buddy? Are you okay? His response began almost inaudibly, then rose in volume until it was piercing. I'm fading. Eugene tapped me on the shoulder. He had an odd expression on his face. Let me try. I handed him the bullhorn and stepped back. Robert, this is Detective Eugene Datlow. Who are they, and what made you think they can bring your wife back? Wife? There was movement inside the bay, what sounded like shuffling. I could see a vague shape behind the white and pink roller brush. How did you know it was my wife? Just a lucky guess. Has she passed? The man's voice thickened, like he was holding back tears. Yes, no, not here. She's alive here, but she's dead for me. Cancer. I'm sorry to hear that, Robert. I lost my mother to cancer. It's a horrible way to die. A sniff from inside. Who told you they could bring her back? They found me at work through the internet. I thought it was a prank at first, one of my coworkers messing with me, until I realized they knew things no one could know. They said there were many other versions of me out there, and if I could kill them all, it would leave a vacuum. They said the vacuum would pull me into the best possible world, one where she would never get sick. They promised to show me how. I know this sounds crazy. Shadow was leaning further into the light now. I couldn't see a gun in his hands. Eugene kept trying to draw him out. I don't think it's crazy at all, Robert. The many worlds hypothesis has been around for a while now. Are you saying you came here from another timeline? Another burst of static from inside the car wash, quickly followed by an agonized scream. The man in the bay staggered forward, his hands clearly clutching his head. I made the call, shouting to the uniforms that he was unarmed. Eugene took off running, and I wasn't far behind. Our suspect dropped to his knees, screaming. He had been right. Something was wrong. He looked fuzzy and indistinct, like the image on a TV with a busted aerial. There was enough of him to finally make out his face, however. It was slimmer than it had been in the photos, more lived in, his eyes sunken and haunted. But till the day I die, I'll swear the man in that car wash was Robert Morrison. The same man who'd had his head removed by a sniper's bullet was here in front of us, admitting to having done the deed. Before we could process any of it, a wave of static washed over us, hitting like a physical blow. Morrison's cries distorted into electronic noise, like they were expanding outward, getting thinner with distance. The final look on his face as he lost visual definition was one of abject horror. Then he was gone. I don't have to tell you what a clusterfuck this whole thing turned out to be. Officially, the murder of Robert Morrison, our guy, the one who died in his driveway, remains unsolved, and the car wash shooter is considered at large. His discarded rifle and empty 3-shot mags vanished from an evidence lockup later that same day. After our shift, it took 5 shots of tequila to work up the nerve to ask the obvious question. Eugene, what the fuck happened today? He was drunker than I was. Lining up a bottle cap, he then flipped up into an empty shot glass. What do you mean? He told us. I signaled to the waitress for another round. No, he told you. To me, it was like watching real-life X-Files. I got no place to put that shit. Many worlds, Frank. It's real. Yeah, but what is it? He answered while intently peeling the label off his beer. There are different interpretations. Basically, it says that the reality we live in is one of many. Each one reflects a different possible life. In this one, I'm a cop. In another one, maybe I got to go to space camp and ended up working for NASA. You could be out there somewhere living it up as a ballerina the way God intended. Many worlds, many versions of the same life. In one of Robert Morrison's lives, hell, maybe in more than one, that woman we spoke to this morning dies of cancer. It broke him. Something out there used that to fuck with him. I thought about it while the next round of shots were being sent down in front of us. It made more sense than most of the things my partner talked about in the car. Of course, without having seen what we did, I'd never believe a word of it. Okay, yeah, that's my next question. Who told him to do it? Eugene took his shot, then mine. Don't know. Every culture as a trickster myth. Whoever it was knew enough to convince him to somehow travel the fucking spheres, killing himself over and over. I'd say that qualifies as one hell of a trick. Tricksters like ghosts. Since when do you believe in ghosts? He lay his head on his arms, staring through the window to the street outside. I don't, but science only gets you so far. After that, you're left with mysticism. Mysticism scares the shit out of me. I caught the waitress's eye and ordered more tequila.
Fear Daily is an independent podcast hosted by Brandon Schexnayder and written by Brennan Storr, with Joanna Smith serving as the consulting editor, audio production by Rachel Boyd, and sound design by Southern Gothic Media. This podcast is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, and incidents are either products of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or to real events or locations, is entirely coincidental. Ad-free versions of Fear Daily are available now on your favorite podcast apps. For more information, visit feardaily.com. But move fast, before the server goes offline.